Well, I'm Toby.
And I'm Savannah.
And this is a ranking of 2019 movies from a certain point of view. So it's just a really long title to have to say. This is basically... So we started writing reviews for the St. Michael Movie Theater this year. So this is 15 movies that we did write the reviews for. We saw a bunch more and just didn't get reviews written for them. So these will be 50 movies we wrote reviews for so that you can get the in-depth review on them in our ranking.
So it's not like worst movies of the year or best movies of the year. It's a ranking of all the movies, and not like you said, not necessarily that they're bad, but just that they weren't as good as the other ones that we saw.
And again, obviously biased, as all these kinds of lists are for everybody. These lists are biased no matter who puts it out.
Yeah.
Because obviously personal preferences are going to come in over something else, and you never know. Somebody might put The Social Network as the #1 movie of the decade, and that's just the weirdest thing I've ever fucking heard in my life. Pardon for the language, but I can't believe it. So anyways, we'll just start it right off the bat, and Savannah will tell us the first one. So we'll be ranking from worst to best, because we got to end on a high note here.
Yeah, exactly. So our number 15 spot of, again, the ones we've done written reviews for, not every movie, is Hellboy. That came in our last place at number 15. I think it's pretty obvious as to why. There's really been no positive talk about Hellboy.
Yeah.
And for good reason.
I don't even remember being in the theaters that long after we saw it. I'm pretty sure it came out of the theaters really quickly.
Yeah. It was out of the St. Michael after like a week or two.
Yeah, out of our theater.
Yeah.
It made me miss Ron Perlman. And not saying that David Harbour did a bad job as Hellboy. I think his part of the movie was actually really good, and I liked all of it.
Yeah.
I just didn't like the plot and the whole overarching story, and things that were done just didn't make sense to me. Specifically, for some reason, this will always stick with me. And again, obviously, spoilers for these movies as we do quick things. So that's one thing I liked was the acting from David Harbour. I thought he did a really good job with the script that he was given, and Ian McShane did good. The acting was either so-so or good. So there wasn't any really, there wasn't really any bad acting from actors. Although if you're gonna use Mila as a villain, I prefer her to be better as a villain. But anyway, so the one part that I just didn't like about this movie was he goes over to England to help them hunt giants, or really, trolls. Yeah. They were going to hunt trolls. And in the middle of this troll thing, which ended up being a real troll hunt, they turn on Hellboy and try to kill him. And then they get attacked by the trolls. I'm like, why wouldn't you just kill the trolls and then attack him? Or set up a fake troll hunt that doesn't actually have real trolls involved in it?
It was just...
it was super weird.
And again, we have our full... They are spoiler-free, too. But we have our full written reviews on our WordPress site, which I will put in the description to this video, which has all of our full written reviews. We don't have video reviews for really most of the movies we've seen this year, but we do have written ones. So yeah, we'll go into more depth in that as to why we didn't like Hellboy so much, between the artistic reasons, the acting reasons, everything else. So, but I think we should move on to our...
Number 14. This one was a hard one. I felt bad putting it in this spot, but in the end, it's where it needed to go. The Lion King.
Yeah, and again, actually not a lot of positive talk about The Lion King either. A lot of people were disappointed.
I wasn't disappointed that it was a shot-for-shot remake. That didn't bother me as much.
No, yeah, that was fine. It was more of, like you said, you can't convey the emotions.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
In the animals.
You gotta use. Animals don't make expressions. They just don't. They're animals. They don't make expressions. I mean, sometimes you can think you see a dog smiling or whatever, but
or a hyena maybe.
Yeah, or a hyena. But animals don't have facial expressions. They can't portray sadness and grief and all that. And I think that's what was really lost on this movie. I don't think it was, the directing's fault or the storyboard's fault. I just think in the end, you can't make real life-like animals smile and laugh and cry and be sad.
Right, and the lack of Jeremy Irons was a huge downfall.
If you're gonna keep James Earl Jones, I still want Jeremy Irons. Not that he's a bad actor.
The guy that they chose he's not a bad actor at all. It's just Jeremy Irons just killed it. I mean that.
And he didn't even sing "Be Prepared." He did a talk kind of singing, and it was still just phenomenal.
It's Jeremy Irons.
It's my favorite song out of The Lion King, and it fell flat for me this time.
Yeah, and it wasn't just you either.
Yeah, no, Jon Favreau, keep doing what you do. You still do a good job at directing.
I really think this is one of those where there just had to be a lot of studio interference.
Yeah.
I really do. That and the whole animals not being able to convey a lot of emotion.
That was the biggest
thing
for me. I mean...
Yeah, it's not really a fault of Jon Favreau. I think he was doomed from the start with this one.
Yes.
You know.
Exactly.
So our number 13, this was an easy one for us. We actually probably would have, if the other two weren't so disappointing, because
we had such high expectations.
We had such high expectations.
And they let us
this
down.
would have been our last place if it weren't for the disappointment expectations of the other ones.
And before we say it, I want to say this. We went in with an open mind. We wanted this movie to be good because of how much this movie reminds me of another movie and how much I love that movie. So we went in with an open mind, but...
So our number 13 is Knives Out. Would have been our last place if it weren't for the high expectations of the first two that we named.
I've been hearing a lot of people who love that movie.
I don't
To each their own. I get you gotta love what you want to love. I mean, that's why we have all these movies in the world, that we have somebody's gonna like it. We just didn't.
Somebody else actually put it better. Somebody else out there, probably about a bunch of people in the YouTube universe. Rian Johnson is not as clever as he'd like to think he is.
Right.
He wants to be this clever, amazing, I'm going to shock you and I'm so great because I can shock you type of director. And you know what? That works well for horror and gore movies. It doesn't really work well by subverting every genre you touch.
First of all, I mean, one of the best things about the Clue movie, besides having Tim Curry in there, is that it left you guessing the whole time. You were seriously just trying to figure out who did it, how they did it, and include what room they did it in.
Right.
I mean, we knew that right away, but you're trying to figure it out. I mean, and I go into a 2-hour movie, and I find out who did it, and not only who did it, but how they did it within the first 45 minutes. Why am I sitting there for another hour?
Well,
and
had
15
there
minutes?
been another mystery to better pay it off at the end, it would have actually worked. I think that twist would have worked had he had a better twist to pay it off.
Right, yeah.
But he didn't have a good enough twist, and it just fell flat. It fell flat so quickly because we knew everything, and from there on, it was like, okay, well, why are we still watching?
Yeah, it was just, I didn't understand why I was still sitting there. That being said, the casting, I mean, that's what drove me to this movie, was all the cast in it. Did phenomenal.
He always gets amazing cast.
He's got good actors and everything for his movies, and and I did enjoy Looper. So I don't just straight up hate Rian Johnson. I think he can do good, but he's got to just get past this. I need to subvert your expectations like 20 times in every movie that I make, so that then I feel better. It's like, you don't need to do it that much. Once or twice, sure, go ahead, and it doesn't need to be every movie either.
Yeah.
So, but all right, moving on. I don't. This one just had to go here. I did enjoy this movie, especially the first one. Number 12, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil.
Probably the biggest reason that this one is so low, besides some sequelitis a little bit, is just the fact that Maleficent, being the title character, had a much smaller role than the title character should. Mm-hmm. I mean, granted, there are movies where the title, like Coco. I mean, Coco, the title character, kid brain, the title character, is actually not on screen for 90% of it. But they have to either be the main theme of the movie, they're driving it, or they're constantly on the screen. And one or the other.
Maleficent is driving a lot of the actions in this movie, but it's more of a...
It felt more like Michelle Pfeiffer's movie.
Yeah, it did. It felt like it was more her, and then Maleficent was just it almost felt
She felt like a side plot.
It kind of felt like Sleeping Beauty, where Maleficent just comes in, curses her, leaves for most of the movie until she turns 16 and comes back.
Right.
In the original Disney animation. So that's it. It really felt like that. I enjoyed finding out that there were more of her. I thought that was cool. And then she was the Phoenix. I thought that all that was really cool. I wanted more screen time with her, I guess. I don't know what else to say.
Anyways, moving on.
Number 11.
Our number 11 is Rambo Last Blood. Again, we're kind of getting to the point where these are our mid-grade. We enjoyed these. They just... there's a lot of stuff that came out. There's a lot of stuff that came out. Rambo we were excited for, but it's not something that we're die hard I mean, you're a die hard. Yeah, I know, but there's a difference between loving Rambo and having about a zillion Star Wars collectibles in the house. There's a difference.
Right, that's true. And Rambo Last Blood I thought was great.
It was good. We enjoyed it.
It didn't have to do anything crazy for me. It was just a good action film. And
a lot of people complain about the overviolence, but I'm like, I mean, call me a terrible person, but
violent.
Call me a terrible person, but when you see why he did it, I'm kind of like,
Yeah,
I'd do
mean,
that.
sometimes violence is justified with what you did with your life. I mean, if you live a very violent life, you're probably going to meet a very violent end.
That's true.
I just think that that's where it goes.
There's not too much more to say about that.
Yeah, so we're moving on. Number 10,
10.
Terminator Dark Fate. I do love Terminator a lot. I'm huge into that. I thought it was well. I appreciate that I got rid of Rise of the Machines, Salvation, and Genesis.
Yeah.
I didn't really enjoy any. I did like Rise of the Machines when I was a kid, but as watching it as I've been older, it's just not something I enjoy anymore.
And killing off Sarah Connor was just never...
You know, and as if you've watched the trailer that we did for this movie, you know how much I love Sarah Connor. So seeing her in there as badass as ever, I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah.
Really nothing too much to...
Too negative, but it's, again, there's just so much that came out this year.
Yeah, exactly. It just had to be somewhere.
So our number 9 is Aladdin. Surprisingly, a lot of people have the same issues with this that they did with The Lion King, but this one really did not fall as flat for me. I think the biggest thing for me was I grew up with dance. I was a dancer for a long time, and that was a big thing for me. Was the dancing in this was just incredible. And don't get me wrong, the dancing in the animated was incredible, but it's different when it's a live person doing it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it got me with that. It got me with the dancing because it was just whoever choreographed that. Just damn.
Yeah, it was well done. My only complaint about Aladdin, if you watch the review, we actually did a video review for this one.
30 minutes. We apologize.
It's a little long. Sorry, it was our first one, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't like Jafar. He wasn't menacing enough. I mean, I'm just somebody who I'm not dumb. I don't need you to spoon feed me who the villain is. But when I see the villain, you need to know that that's...
They still need to be menacing.
Right, yeah, you gotta be menacing.
It was like, we can't name the people, but it was like the one guy, he was like, oh, let's give him a really soft voice instead.
Yeah, give him a soft voice. So...
Yeah, not too much.
Yeah, otherwise Aladdin was good. Yeah, not too much. I saw it a couple times in theaters and enjoyed it. At number 8, we put It Chapter 2. Again, not bad at all. It was.
It's right in our middle, pretty much.
Yeah, it was a very good movie. Somebody read the book a while back.
Long time ago.
Yeah, but it felt like it was natural. It was progression. I knew going in, I knew this wasn't going to be as horror based as the first half was, and that this was more of a sci-fi kind of adventure.
Yeah.
In this second part,
I'd say the only thing that fell flat were one or two of the jokes. Specifically, that everybody makes fun of the "Just Call Me Angel."
Yeah.
While he's puking. No, that was weird.
Didn't make sense.
And everybody kind of seems to agree that was a weird moment. So it was just little things like that would kind of fall flat, but otherwise, I mean, the adult cast matched the kid cast perfectly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think they did
they
great
really
choices
did.
on that.
Yeah.
Casting was done very well. And yeah, so I enjoyed it. I've seen it again, and I can't wait to get it on Blu-ray. It might even already be out, but we're waiting for a little bit. I have a reason. But anyways, on to number 7.
Number 7, we picked Shazam. Honestly, this was just not. I don't want to say a surprise because Aquaman was great too, and we know that the DCEU has come out with good stuff.
Their solo stuff is good.
But it was like one of those where we didn't go in with like the highest of expectations that we could possibly have. It was more of a like, oh, we think we'll at least have a good time, and it was like, damn, this is like even better than that. Mm-hmm. It just was so. I mean, it was so funny.
Yeah, you could really feel the young Billy Batson. I can't remember the kid who played him. Then Adam Levy being the older Billy Batson. They were being Shazam.
Zachary Levy.
Yeah, Zach Levy. Sorry. It seemed like it was the same person. It seemed like it was actually that kid already grown up. They did a really good job on that one.
It was just, it was a very good...
The jokes were fine. Everything flowed for the most part, I felt very well. There was a couple of hiccups on it, but, I mean, it's going to always happen with an origin story, especially. So, overall, enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
Probably would say my second favorite superhero movie this year. So...
Yeah, well, yeah, that's right. That would definitely be right. All right, so ready to go ahead.
Number 6, we put Dr. Sleep. Thoroughly enjoyed this. I love that he was able to use both the Shining book, the Shining movie, and the Dr. Sleep book and meld it to make this sequel, because if you know, Stanley Kubrick did a great job with The Shining, but also took a lot of liberties from the book.
He actually, Mike Flanagan actually had to go to Stephen King and convince him to let him use so much reference from the Shining movie, because Stephen King hated it so much, but he kind of made the point of, you know what, people recognize it more, a lot more of them watched that than the miniseries, and it got better fan reviews than the miniseries did. Not necessarily that it deserved the better reviews, but that's just it got it.
I think that he did a great job ending it. And
and so he mixed them both really well. He mixed it well together, and I like Mike Flanagan's style a lot. We loved The Haunting of Hill House, so that was a pretty easy style for us to get on board with when we started watching this movie. And I mean, Ewan McGregor as the lead. I mean,
you're always gonna win my book right there.
Exactly.
I love the movie The Island just because Ewan McGregor is in it.
Well, and Scarlett Johansson.
Well, she's in there too.
All right, our number 5 is Frozen 2. This is probably our only animated one that's on. This I guess technically The Lion King is animated, but this is probably the only real animated one that we wrote a review for, just because we didn't get to a lot of animated movies this year. And Frozen 2 was
phenomenal.
It was so.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
It's technically the first sanctioned Disney sequel that they produced.
Princess sequel.
They produced. Disney Princess. They produced a lot of like the Cinderella 2 and those ones. They produced them, but they had like third parties kind of make them, and they didn't necessarily include them in canon, even though that they'll still put them out on Disney Plus and stuff.
Yeah.
So this was technically, like you said, their first princess sequel, and they nailed it. Honestly, it wasn't a disappointment. It didn't suffer from sequelitis to me at all.
No, I think it put some theories to rest that people had. And I just think, after the end of Frozen, you're just like, well, where can you really go with this? And they really just tied it back in. They bring the parents back in so they don't look like such dicks, as bad as they were. And so it was just all around. I really enjoyed Frozen. We saw it a couple of times.
The humor was great.
The humor, it always landed. It wasn't too awkward. They had both high, low notes. You got the whole range of emotions that you were supposed to get. And you felt for the characters. At least I did. So overall, really love Frozen 2 and would recommend watching it. And I think that the one thing that they did for this movie is they made sure they didn't have something as catchy as Let It Go.
Which is nice. It's kind of
nice. For some people, I love Let It Go.
But Into the Unknown was a fantastic
Into the Unknown
song.
Was a really great song.
And
I really did enjoy
cover,
that.
I mean, God, I can't stand that there are men out there that can sing higher notes than I can.
So, coming in at number 4, which was probably by far my favorite.
We're number 4 now.
Yep, number 4. My favorite non-superhero or Star Wars or comic book related or Star Wars related movie. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I mean, I effing love this movie.
Yeah.
Now, the alternate history of it and knowing before what was going to happen and then hearing other people going, oh my God, is that that's who those people were? Like, that's what that was about. It's like, yeah, it's just Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt together. I can't believe they haven't done a movie together before.
They should always do movies together.
Yeah, they should have been doing movies together for like the last 20 years. I mean, they were great.
You know what? I've never so badly rooted for a bromance, I think, in my entire life. I was like, literally, it's not in a romantic way at all. It's just like you two are just the most amazing friends that could ever exist.
Yeah, that movie nailed it out of the park. I'd say definitely in my top 5 Tarantino films of all time.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed that.
And his visual style is beautiful. You can hate his movies as much as you want. He's a good friggin' visual director.
All the little things that he keeps in his mini universe that keep coming on. The Apple cigarettes and it's all escaping me now because we're talking about it, of course. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that one a lot.
I honestly thought in the first 30 minutes, I was like, oh crap, this movie's gonna drag on because I'm gonna have to go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
No, it went so fast.
By,
almost 3-hour movie, and I was like, what? It's done? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It was done. It was thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah. All right, our number 3. So for our top 3, really, any of them, they're kind of interchangeable. Any of them could go in any place. It's just, it was so hard to decide, and we obviously have to nail down some kind of order. But it was really hard to decide. So really, any of these, depending on our moods, can be interchangeable. But for now, we put our number 3 as Avengers Endgame. I mean,
that's true,
just such a awesome wrap up to what we saw in Infinity War.
I mean, 3 hours that didn't feel like 3 hours. Especially after the second and third time that we went and saw it. I mean, it was beautiful. One thing that I like more about, one thing that really kept me about this one is this is something that I've been alive to experience the whole way through.
Yeah.
And most of you have who will be watching, so you've been alive. Like, Star Wars is my all-time favorite thing in the world. But unfortunately, I haven't been alive to see. I have seen them all in theaters, but I didn't see them live in theaters.
When they premiered, yeah.
Yeah, when they first premiered. This is 22 movies that I saw in theaters. For the most part, with the same group of people. A couple times, like I saw Captain America out of state, so I couldn't see it with my friends. but just grew with these people and grew with the actors and just everything. And I thought it wrapped it up very well. You know, everything is eventually going to have time travel in it, if they, you know, for the superheroes and stuff, because that's just what comics deal a lot with, is that kind of stuff.
Right.
I thought it was handled very well. I liked the little jokes that were in it. I thought that they came in perfectly. So yeah, overall, I very much enjoyed Avengers Endgame.
This one, you're gonna
number 2, that's why I chose the even numbers, one of the reasons. Number 2 was Star Wars Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker.
We're probably gonna get shit for saying that. Or called Disney shill or something, but...
I effing love this movie. Yes, it has its flaws, don't get me wrong. Things that did annoy me out of it, we can do a whole video on that later, which we will be. But I thoroughly enjoyed this. I walked out of this theater a lot happier than I did when I walked out of the theater for The Last Jedi. And every time that I watch this movie again and again and again, I lose a little bit more respect and get a little bit more angry about The Last Jedi, because I can see that if this was J.J. Abrams' plan the whole time, I can see exactly what should have happened in Episode 8 that would have made this movie less rushed and I'd say less jam-packed with fan service, because that's what some people are complaining about. I don't really complain about that too much if it's done right, which I think it was for the most part done right in this movie. So I love Star Wars and I love Episode 9. We'll be ranking all the Star Wars movies, so you can get our official ranking on that if you care. If you don't, you can watch it anyways and just watch it. But to the number one movie now.
But for our movies for 2019, this is definitely at least in our second spot, because it...
Oh, it was the best way to end out the year. It's actually the last movie we saw in theaters before the end of the year. So yeah, Episode 9, thoroughly enjoyed it. Wanted to put it in the first spot, but after much debate with the wife, we agreed on this one as our number 1 spot.
So for number 1, I argued strongly for Joker, because that was just... Don't get me wrong, Star Wars, I loved it, but... I mean, this movie, you don't go in knowing what's gonna happen. Like, you really don't.
I don't want to say this subverts expectations, but it almost kind of did, in the most perfect way ever.
Right, like, if you want to do that, that's how you do it. Do it in a way where it's unreliable, so you are subverting expectations, but it's like, well, it could be, oh, maybe he is related to Bruce Wayne, but maybe it's all in his head, or maybe the whole thing was in his head.
He's just
maybe parts of it were in his head, maybe, like, there's just so many...
He's such an unreliable narrator that you don't know what's going on during the movie.
And some people hate that, but I love that style. I love that, because...
I'm okay with thinking during a movie. That's fine. I'm okay if a movie makes me think.
Because I just, as much as it might get confusing for some people, I like those theories. I like being able to be like, well, could it literally have just been this is my identity A, this is my identity B, this is my identity C, It could be that multiple choice, or it could be his actual life, but he's presenting it as there's just so many.
Right. The movie really blew me away, and...
Yeah, and Joaquin
one of the people that we saw it with didn't like it. He thought that there would be more death and violence in it, and... I mean, it would make sense for a Joker movie to have that, but I'm glad it didn't. I'm glad it showed us the way it did. Well, especially for an origin. Yeah. Origins don't have to be the bloodiest thing ever. And
right. The killing joke wasn't either. It wasn't a hugely bloody...
My favorite part of the movie is almost towards the end, when he's... Right as that cop car starts coming around that corner, and that song comes out, it was just like, you wouldn't think that song would be perfect here, but my God, was that... That scene was just amazing with that song playing. He's just watching the chaos unfold that he started, that he thinks that he started. We don't know if he actually did.
True.
But God, yeah, overall, the Joker was knock out of the park.
I mean, we were not even in the slightest disappointed, and we went and watched it a bunch more times because
I couldn't believe how just different that it was than what we thought it was going to be. I knew it was going to be dark and gritty and stuff from the trailer, obviously, and I mean, fitting that the first trailer reaction we ever did was the Joker, and it is our number 1.
It did not disappoint us.
No, that movie did not disappoint in the least bit. Joaquin Phoenix just nailed the role.
I really want him to get an Oscar. I really do.
Yeah.
I know that they already did that for a Joker. I don't care.
He did it. I mean,
he did a great job.
He nailed it. It was so... This movie was so... It made you feel so uncomfortable while you're watching it. But you were supposed to be uncomfortable, and I enjoyed it. I was like, ooh, okay, this is something that you don't really get too often. Like Birdman was a really rare movie because it was a one-shot, the whole way through. So, and I like that. I enjoyed it. I like that. And this was a movie, The Joker, I feel like, was a big risk for the studio
True, that
and
is
for
very
the
true.
director and even the actors all involved. I think this was a big risk for them, and I think it paid off wonderfully.
Yeah.
The one reason that I prefer the DC over Marvel, even though Marvel does get dark, DC is just always dark and just that's just how they operate.
Well, and
I've
that's
enjoyed
their big
that
selling
more.
point, I think, is their villains. So to have such an intimate character study for their arguably biggest villain, was a huge risk that, like you said, completely paid off.
Yeah,
I mean,
honestly, if you were to nitpick, you could find something wrong with this movie here and there. But I really can't. There wasn't a scene that I didn't like. There wasn't a choice that the director made that I disliked.
there wasn't a visual imagery
No.
moment that,
And even though you know that he's about to shoot Murray in the face, you know he's about to do it, but I still couldn't believe it.
I thought he was going to shoot himself.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was
For
going to
the
shoot.
multiple times I thought, I was like, oh, we must be coming to the end. He's going to shoot himself. But nope. He's just going to, and then there's a whole nother third act pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, it
It's
was
just crazy.
Yeah, so the Joker obviously clearly got our #1 spot. It stole everything away. Yeah, that movie was great. And can't wait to get that one on Blu-ray so we can just rewatch that even more times.
So that's it.
So that's-
Again, those are just the movies that we did written reviews for. We saw more movies. We're not saying that
yes.
these are the only good movies of the year, anything like that. But these are just the ones that we did written reviews for. I'll have the link for that in the description. We'll probably be doing our Star Wars rankings here pretty soon.
So hopefully everybody enjoys the new year and good luck to everybody.
Welcome to a new decade.
Yes, a new decade that starts on a leap year. How exciting. And Cinco de Mayo's on Taco Tuesday. I mean, what more do you want in life? I mean, tacos on Tuesday. I mean, it's great. So, I guess now you know we love tacos. What are you going to do? So, anyways, I guess I hope everybody's year goes great, and I'm excited for another year's worth of movies. Hopefully I can't wait to do more reaction videos for trailers. And
But we'll try to do more video reviews too.
yeah,
That'll be
well, we're
something
getting
we try
better
to
at how
do
to do that a little bit
without
more.
making it 30 minutes long.
Yeah, and we also want to try to do it without too much spoilers. Until next time, may the films be with you.